Hello, I'm James, and this is It's All History Now. Today, the suffragettes, and the fight that changed the world. These ladies were the original gangsters, and they really changed the world for the better. Let's get into it. It was 6 a.m. on a cold March morning. Outside Buckingham Palace, a small group of women had gathered, hammers in hand, eyes flickering up at the windows. They weren't thieves in a conventional sense. They were suffragettes, and the glass that they shattered made a noise louder than the polite society that had ignored them for decades. Tiny shards glittered on the pavement, catching the morning light like fragments of a movement refusing to stay invisible. It wasn't random vandalism, it was deliberate, almost performative, demand to be noticed, decades in the making. You can almost feel the tension, hammer on glass, echoing off stone, quick glances at guards, the mingling of fear, exhilaration and sheer resolve coursing through each woman's veins. By the 1830s, women could own property, but the vote remained elusive, guarded by centuries of law, custom and expectation. Early suffrage campaigns were careful, almost painfully so. Petitions written in elegant scripts, letters to MPs, essays in reformist journals. Most of the time, they were met with polite dismissal, an amused nod, a patronising pat on the shoulder, then nothing. For women excluded from civic life, these gestures weren't trivial. They were constant reminders of society's indifference. The frustration that built over decades finally boiled over in 1903, when Emmeline Pankhurst and her daughters founded the Women's Social and Political Union. Their slogan, "Deeds not words," cut sharper than anything before, almost reckless. London's streets, once a backdrop for orderly marches, were about to become the stage for confrontation, where disruption replaced civility and visibility itself became a weapon. Why would ordinary women risk prison, ridicule, or even force feeding? Their backgrounds varied. Daughters of industrialists, laundresses, nurses, school teachers, but all ran into the same invisible wall. Hunger strikes emerged as a weapon in prison, and force feeding was the authorities' cruel answer. Marion Wallace Dunlop, for instance, refused food for 91 hours in 1909. Her protest set off a chain reaction, highlighting just how physically dangerous political defiance could be. Every chain protest, every strike, every act of civil disobedience was part of a strategy, a body deliberately placed to claim a voice society had denied. Sitting in a cell, refusing food, knowing that the state could literally starve you into submission, is hard to imagine today. And yet that very risk magnified their message, forcing society to confront its own contradictions. Militancy tells only half the story. Across Britain, quieter networks of women were working relentlessly. They held meetings in church halls and drawing rooms, trained speakers, lobbied MPs, and debated in rooms thick with smoke. These grassroots networks provided the scaffolding beneath the dramatic headlines. Without them, smashed windows and chain protests might have been dismissed as reckless chaos. Courage needed context, and these women were the ones offering it, linking local activism to national momentum, private conversations to public action. These women were teaching, organising and building public infrastructure for change long before the first hammer struck a palace window. World War I complicated everything further. Men went off to fight and women stepped into roles previously denied. Munitions factories, farms, offices, shops, even running entire businesses. Their contributions weren't just practical, they were proof that assumptions about gendered capability were wrong. Some suffragists paused militant action to support the war effort. Others carried on quietly, insisting justice does not pause for conflict. By 1918, the Representation of the People Act gave voting rights to women over 30 with property qualifications. What does that even mean? It was a partial victory, tinged with gratitude, but also lingering prejudice. Full equality wouldn't arrive until 1928, when voting ages finally matched men's at 21. Legal milestones tell only part of the story. The movement was messy and full of contradictions. The Pankhurst militancy alienated some supporters even as it inspired others. Middle-class women sometimes clashed with working-class organisers over tactics, priorities, and even tone. Class and race shaped who got heard and who got ignored. Sophia Dunleap-Singh, an Indian suffragist often photographed outside Buckingham Palace in her white sash and hat, reminds us that imperial subjects were watching Britain wrestle with its democratic ideals. The struggle was global in aspiration, stubbornly local in execution, and profoundly uneven in who could participate. Visual culture mattered too. Photos of chained women in courtrooms, posters proclaiming votes for women, and outraged newspaper coverage acted as both proof and propaganda. Even hostile press could amplify the story. Arrest records, clippings, photographs, they all showed a pattern of resistance, showing the movement couldn't be ignored. It wasn't just a spectacle, it was the acclamation of evidence, a public record pressuring society to pay attention. Perhaps the most overlooked legacy is psychological. Women who marched, staged hunger strikes, or debated MPs changed how society imagined female agency. They demanded to be seen, not as passive dependents, but as participants in civic life. Even men who supported them, MPs like Keir Hardie, shopkeepers who sheltered protesters, had to rethink authority and involvement. Change was as much mental and cultural as it was legal. It shifted expectation, imagination, and social norms, opening space for women to assert themselves publicly and politically. The suffrage movement in the UK wasn't one story, but a constellation of strategies, risks, and personalities orbiting a shared goal. It combines spectacle with subtlety, coercion with persuasion, national debate with personal sacrifice. By the time women queued at ballot boxes in 1918, society had been quietly, sometimes violently, reshaped. Those shards on the palace steps were much more than broken glass. They were punctuation marks in a sentence society had refused to finish. And there's the paradox. Progress rarely comes from waiting politely. Often it has to be demanded, against rules, against expectation, in full view. The echo of hammers striking glass lingers as a reminder that democracy is shaped by those bold enough to insist on it. Change rarely arrives quietly. Sometimes it has to be claimed painfully and unflinchingly. So there it is, the suffragettes, the original gangsters. These ladies changed the world for the better. If you've got this far, thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the video, you could leave a like. If you really enjoyed the video, you could always subscribe, that would be nice. But anyhow, I won't waste any more of your day. Thank you for watching, and until next time, I've been James, and this is All History Now.